Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
Sister Martha and I have been talking about your father's sermon all week, Susan. It's really wonderful. In only 2 short years, your father's taken on the spirit of Brooklyn.
That's very gratifying, Miss Brewster.
Yes, you see, living here next to the church all our lives, we've seen many ministers come and go. The spirit of Brooklyn, we always say, is friendliness, and your father's sermons are not so much sermons as friendly talks.
Personally, I've always enjoyed my talks with Cardinal Gibbons. Or have I met him yet?
Not yet, dear. Are the biscuits good?
Bully!
Yes, you see, Susan, it's really peaceful here, isn't it?
Yes, peaceful. The virtues of another day. Father always says they're all in this house. The gentle virtues that went up with candlelight and good manners and low taxes.
It's one of the oldest houses in Brooklyn. It is just as it was when Grandfather Brewster first built and furnished the place, except for the electricity, which Mortimer persuaded us to put in.
Yes, I can understand that. Your nephew Mortimer seems to live for bright lights.
Oh, the poor boy has to work so late. I understand he's taking Elaine to the theater with him tonight. Teddy, your brother Mortimer will be here a little later.
Delighted!
Yes. And I'm so happy that he's taking Elaine to the theater with him.
Well, it's a new experience for my father to wait up until 3 o'clock in the morning for my sister to be brought home.
Oh, Susan, I hope your father doesn't disapprove of Mortimer.
Well,
we'd feel so guilty if he did, Sister Martha and I. You see, since it was here in our home that your sister met Mortimer.
Of course, Miss Abby, and so I'll say immediately that I believe Mortimer himself to be quite the worthy gentleman, but I must also admit that my father has watched the growing intimacy between him and my sister with some trepidation, for one reason, Miss Abby.
Oh, you mean his acid stomach? He's bothered with it so, poor boy.
Not his stomach, Miss Abby. I'm speaking of your nephew's unfortunate connection with the theater.
The theater? Oh, no, Susan. Mortimer writes for a New York newspaper.
I know, Miss Abby, I know, but a dramatic critic is constantly exposed to the theater. I don't doubt but that some of them do develop an interest in it.
Oh, but not Mortimer. Why, he hates the theater.
Really?
Yes, he writes awful things about the theater, and you can't blame him, poor boy. He was really happy writing about real estate, which he knew something about, and then they made him take this terrible night position.
My.
Yes, but as he says, the theater can't last much longer, and in the meantime it's a living. Why, I think if we give the theater another year or two... Oh, who do you suppose that is? Never mind, dear, I'll go. Come in, Miss Brophy.
Hello, Miss Brewster.
And how are you, Miss Klein?
Very well, Miss Brewster.
Officers, what news have you brought me?
Colonel, we have nothing to report.
Splendid! Thank you, officers. At ease.
You know Susan Harper.
Sure. Hello, Susan. We've come for the toys for the Christmas fund.
Oh, yes.
That's a splendid work you officers do, fixing up discarded toys to give poor children a happier Christmas.
Well, it gives us something to do when we have to sit around the station. You get tired of playing cards, and then you start cleaning your gun, and the next thing you know, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Teddy, go upstairs and get that box from your Aunt Martha's room. How is Mr. Brophy? Mr. Brophy's been quite ill, Susan.
Pneumonia.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Charge!
It's better now.
Oh, I'm going to get you some beef broth to take to him.
Oh, don't bother, Miss Abby. You've done so much for him already.
Oh, no. Sister Martha made some this morning. It won't take me a minute. She's taking some to poor Mr. Benitsky right now. Sit down. Be comfortable, all of you.
shouldn't go through all that trouble.
Listen, try to stop her or her sister from doing something nice. And for what? They don't even care you vote.
When we moved next door, my mother wasn't well when she died, and for months before. Well, if I know what pure kindness and absolute generosity are, is because I've known the Brewster sisters.
Colonel, you promised not to do that.
But I have to call a cabinet meeting to get a release of those supplies.
You can do that in the middle of the night. The neighbor priest came with us. We're a little afraid of him anyway.
Oh, he's quite harmless.
Suppose he does think he's Teddy Roosevelt. There's a lot worse people he could think he was.
Darn shame. Nice family like this had to go cuckoo.
Well, his father, the old girl's brother, was some sort of a genius, wasn't he? And their father, Teddy's grandfather, seems to me I've heard was a little crazy too.
He was crazy like Fox. He had $1 million.
Really? Here in Brooklyn?
Yeah, kind of crazy. He was kind of a private something. Old Sergeant Edwards. He used his husband as some sort of a clinic. Tried him out.
Yeah, I heard he made mistakes occasionally too.
But it happened never bothered him much. He was pretty useful on artists. Especially for
Well, whatever he did, he left his arts fixed for life. Thank God for that.
Yes, I'm well acquainted with their charities.
You don't know a tenth of it. When I was with the Missing Persons Bureau, we were trying to trace a man that we never did find. Did you know there's a renting agency that's got this house down for furnished rooms? They don't rent rooms, but you can bet that anyone that comes here looking for a room leaves with a good meal and probably a few dollars in their kick.
It's just a way of digging up people to do something.
Well, now isn't this nice?
Good afternoon, Miss Brewster.
How do you do, Mrs. Brophy?
Good afternoon, Miss Brewster.
How do you do, Susan, Miss Klein?
How do you do, Miss Brewster? We dropped in to get the Christmas toys.
Oh, yes, Teddy's Army and Navy. They wear out. They're all packed.
The Colonel's upstairs after them. Seems the cabinet has to okay it.
Oh, of course. I hope Mr. Brophy's better.
He's doing fine, ma'am. Your sister's getting some soup for me to take to him.
Oh, yes, we made it this morning. I just took some to a poor man who broke ever so many bones.
Oh, you're back, Martha. How is Mr. Benitsky?
It's pretty serious, I'm afraid. The doctor was there. He's going to amputate in the morning.
Can we be present?
No, I asked him, but he says it's against the rules of the hospital.
You couldn't be of any service, and you must spare yourself something.
Here's the beef broth for Mr. Brophy. Be sure it's good and hot.
Ooh, this will do. It's happy. That O'Malley boy's nuts about soldiers.
That's General Miles. I've retired him. What's this? The organ?
Oh, Teddy.
But the organ goes to the Philippines.
Now, Teddy.
No, I've given my word to Fighting Bob Evans.
I'll put it back, Teddy.
What's the what kid gets it? Bobby Evans, Izzy Cohen. We'll be going along, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Goodbye.
Bye.
I must be getting home.
Oh, before you go, Susan.
Charge! Charge the blockhouse!
The blockhouse?
The stairs are always on one hill.
Have you ever tried to persuade him that he wasn't Teddy Roosevelt?
Oh, no.
He's so happy being Teddy Roosevelt.
And we'd much rather him be Mr. Roosevelt than nobody.
Well, if he's happy, what's more important, you're happy. Father says to see he signs these.
What are they?
Dr. Harper has made all the arrangements for Teddy to go to Happydale Sanitarium after we pass on.
But why should Teddy sign any papers now?
Father says it's better to have it all settled. If the Lord should take you suddenly, then perhaps we couldn't persuade Teddy to commit himself, and that would mean an unpleasant legal procedure. Mr. Witherspoon understands they are to be filed away until the time comes to use them.
Mr. Witherspoon, who's he?
He's the superintendent of Happydale.
Dr. Harper has arranged for him to drop in tomorrow or the next day to meet Teddy.
I better be running along, or Elaine will be over here looking for me.
Yes, give Elaine our love. And please tell your father not to think too harshly of Mortimer, because he's a dramatic critic. Somebody's got to do those things.
Did you just have tea?
Yes, and dinner's going to be late too.
So, why?
Teddy, good news for you. You're going to Panama to dig another lock for the canal.
Delighted! Boy, boy, boy! I shall prepare at once for the journey. Charge!
Oh, Abby, while I was out.
Yes, dear, I just couldn't wait for you. I didn't know when you'd be back, and Susan was coming.
But all by yourself.
Oh, I got along fine.
I'll run right downstairs and see.
Oh, no, I was all alone, and we didn't have time.
Well,
Martha, you just look in the window seat. Oh. Why, it's Elaine. Come in, dear.
Good afternoon, Miss Abby. Good afternoon, Miss Martha. I thought Susan was supposed to be here.
she just this minute left. Didn't you meet her?
No, I took the shortcut through the cemetery. Mortimer hasn't come yet?
Oh, no, dear.
Oh, he asked me to meet him here. Do you mind if I wait?
Not at all.
Do sit down.
But we really must speak to Mortimer about doing this to you.
Doing what?
He was brought up to know better. When a gentleman is taking a young lady out, he should call for her at her house.
Oh, there's something about calling for a girl at a parsonage that discourages any man who doesn't embroider.
No, he's done this far too often. We're going to speak to him.
Oh, don't bother, Miss Abby. After young men whose idea of a nightlife were taking me to prayer meetings, it's wonderful to go to the theater almost every night of my life.
It's comforting for us, too, because if Mortimer has to see some of those plays he has to see, at least he's sitting next to a minister's daughter.
Oh, my goodness, Elaine. What you must think of us not having tea cleared away by this time.
Now don't bother with anything in the kitchen until Mortimer comes, then I'll help you. He should be here any minute now.
Yes. Susan must have been surprised not to find me at home. I'd better run over and say goodnight to her.
It's a shame you missed her.
If Mortimer comes, you tell him I'll be right back. Hello, Mort.
Hello, Elaine. Hello, Aunt Martha.
Abby, Mortimer's here.
Were you going somewhere?
I was just going over to tell Father not to wait up for me.
I didn't know that was still being done, even in Brooklyn.
Hello, Mortimer.
Hello, Aunt Abby.
Oh, how are you?
All right, and you look well. You haven't changed much since yesterday.
It was yesterday, wasn't it? We're seeing a great deal of you lately. Sit down, sit down.
Abby, haven't we something to do in the kitchen? You know the tea things.
Oh, yes, the tea things. Well, you two just make yourselves at home.
Just make yourselves at home.
Well, can't you take a hint?
No, that was pretty obvious. A lack of inventiveness, I should say.
Yes, that's exactly what you'd say.
Where do you want to go for dinner?
I don't care. I'm not very hungry.
Well, I just had breakfast. Suppose we wait until after the show?
But that'll make it pretty late, won't it?
Oh, not with the little stinker we're seeing tonight. From what I've heard about it, we'll be at Polly's by 10 o'clock.
You ought to be fair to these plays.
Are these plays fair to me?
I've never seen you walk out on a musical.
That musical is an opening tonight.
No.
Darling, you'll have to learn the rules. With a musical, there are always 4 changes of title and 3 postponements. They liked it in New Haven, but it needs a lot of work.
Oh, I was hoping it was a musical.
You have such a light mind.
Not a bit. After a serious play, we joined the proletariats in the subway and I listened to a lecture on the drama. After a musical, you take me home in a taxi and you make a few passes.
Now wait a minute, darling. That's a very inaccurate piece of reporting.
Oh, I will admit that after the Behrman play, you told me I had authentic beauty. And that's a heck of a thing to say to any girl. It wasn't until our first musical that you told me I had nice legs. And I have, too. Which reminds me, I'd better tell Father not to wait up for me tonight.
I've never been able to rationalize it.
What?
My falling in love with a girl who lives in Brooklyn.
Falling in love? You're not stooping to the articulate, are you?
The only way I can regain my self-respect is to keep you in New York.
Did you say keep?
No, I'm convinced that you're holding out for the legalities.
I can afford to be a good girl for quite a few years yet.
And I can't wait that long. Where could we be married in a hurry? Say tonight.
I'm afraid Father will insist on officiating.
Oh, good grief. I'll bet your father can make even the marriage service sound pedestrian.
Are you by chance writing a review of it?
Oh, forgive me, darling. It's an occupational disease. I may give that show tonight a good notice.
Now, darling, don't pretend you love me that much.
Be sure to tell your father not to wait up tonight.
I think I'd better tell him to wait up.
All right, everything formal and legal, but not later than next month.
Darling, I'll talk over with Father and set the date.
Hello, Mortimer.
How are you, Mr. President?
Bully, thank you. Just bully. What news have you brought me?
Oh, just this, Mr. President. The country is squarely behind you.
I know! Isn't it wonderful? Well, goodbye. Goodbye.
Where are you off to, Teddy?
Panama!
Oh, Panama is the cellar. He digs locks for the canal down there.
You're so sweet to him, and he's very fond of you.
Well, Teddy was always my favorite brother.
Favorite? Were there more of you?
There's another brother, Jonathan.
I've never heard of him. Your aunts never mentioned him.
Oh, no, we don't like to talk about Jonathan. He left Brooklyn very early, by request. Jonathan was always the kind of boy that liked to cut worms in two with his teeth.
Whatever became of him?
I don't know. He wanted to be a surgeon like grandfather, but he wouldn't go to medical school. And his practice, well, it got him into trouble.
Oh, aren't you two going to be late for the theater?
Oh, we're skipping dinner. We won't have to start for half an hour.
Oh, then I'll leave you two alone again.
Oh, don't bother. Darling, I'd better run over and speak to Father. He likes to pray over me a little before I go out with you. Don't worry, I'll be right back. I'll cut through the cemetery.
Well, if the prayer isn't too long, I'll have time to lead you beside distilled waters.
Oh, that's the first time I ever heard you quote the Bible. We knew Elaine would be a good influence on you.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to marry her.
Oh, Mortimer! Martha, come right in here. I've got some wonderful news for you. Mortimer and Elaine are going to be married.
Married? Oh, Mortimer.
We hoped it would happen just like this.
Elaine must be the happiest girl in the world.
Happy? Just look at her leaping over those gravestones. By the way, I left a large envelope around here last week. It's one of the chapters of my book on Thoreau. Have you seen it?
Well, if you left it here, then it must be here somewhere.
When are you going to be married? What are your plans? There must be something more you can tell us about Elaine.
Elaine? Oh, yes. Elaine thought it was brilliant.
What, Mortimer?
My chapter on Thoreau.
Well, when Elaine gets back, we ought to have a little celebration. We must drink to your happiness. Martha, isn't there some of that Lady Baltimore cake left?
Oh, yes.
And we'll open a bottle of wine.
And to think that it happened in this room.
Now, where could I have put that?
Well, with your fiancé sitting beside you tonight, I do hope the play can be something you can enjoy for once. It may be something romantic. What's the name of it?
Murder Will Out.
Oh, dear.
When the curtain goes up, the first thing you see will be a dead body.
The arms of Jesus.
Aunt Abby?
Yes, dear.
You were making plans for Teddy to go to that sanitarium, the Happy Dale.
Oh, yes, dear. It's all arranged. Dr. Harper sent along the things for him to sign. Here they are. Here.
He's got to sign them right away.
Yes, that's what Dr. Harper thinks. Then there won't be any legal difficulties after we've passed on.
He's got to sign them this minute. He's down in the cellar. Get him up here right away. Oh!
Why, there's no such hurry as that.
Once he gets his mind on the canal, you can't get it on much else.
Teddy's got to go to Happy Dale now, tonight.
No, Mortimer, that is not until after we're gone.
Right away, I tell you, right away.
Mortimer, how can you say such a thing? Why, as long as we live, we won't be separated from Teddy.
Listen, darlings, I'm frightfully sorry, but I have some very shocking news for you. Now, we've all got to try to keep our heads. You know, we've sort of humored Teddy because we thought he was harmless.
Why, he is harmless.
He was harmless. That's why he has to go to Happy Dale. Why he has to be confined.
Mortimer, why have you suddenly turned against Teddy, your own brother?
Well, if you're going to find out sometime, it might as well be now. Teddy's killed a man.
Nonsense, dear.
There's a body in the window seat.
Oh, yes, dear, we know.
You know.
Of course, dear, but it has nothing to do with Teddy.
Now, Mortimer, you just forget about it. Forget you ever saw the gentleman.
Forget?
We never dreamed you'd pick.
But who is he?
Well, his name's Hoskins. Adam Hoskins. That's all I really know about him. Except that he's a Methodist.
That's all you know about him? Well, how did he get in there? What happened to him?
He died.
And Martha, men don't just get into window seats and die.
No, he died first.
But how?
Mortimer, don't be so inquisitive. The man died because he drank some wine with poison in it.
How did the poison get in the wine?
Well, we put it in wine because it's less noticeable. When it's in tea, it leaves a distinct odor.
You put it in the wine?
Yes, and I put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat because Susan was coming.
So you knew what you'd done, and you didn't want Susan to see the body.
Not at tea. That wouldn't have been very nice. Now, Mortimer, you know about it, and you can just forget about it. I do think Martha and I have the right to our own little secrets.
And don't you tell Elaine. Oh, Abby, while I was out, I dropped in on Mrs. Schultz. She's doing much better, but she would like to have us take Junior to the movies again.
Oh, we must do that tomorrow or the next day.
Yes, but this time we'll go where we want to go. Junior's not going to drag me into another one of those scary pictures.
Oh, they shouldn't be allowed to make pictures just to frighten people.
Hello? City desk? Oh, hello, Al. Do you know who this is? That's right. Say, Al, when I left the office earlier, I told you where I was going, remember? Well, where did I say? Uh-huh. Well, it would take me about half an hour to get to Brooklyn. What time have you got? That's right. I must be here. And Martha and Abby, come in here. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
What are we going to do about what, Mortimer?
There's a body in there!
Yes, Mr. Hoskins.
Oh, great Scott. I can't turn you over to the police, but what am I going to do?
Well, for one thing, stop being so excited.
And another, stop worrying so much. We told you to forget about it.
Forget about it? My dear Aunt Davy, can't I make you realize that something has to be done?
Oh, Mortimer, you behave yourself. You're too old to be flying off the handle like this.
But Mr. Hotchkiss...
Hoskins, dear.
Well, whatever his name is, you can't leave him in there.
Oh, we don't intend to, dear.
Teddy's down in the cellar now, digging a lock.
You mean you're going to bury Mr. Hotchkiss in the cellar?
Why, of course, dear. That's what we did with the others.
And Martha, you can't just bury Mr... Others?
The other gentlemen.
When you say others, do you mean others? More than one others?
Yes. Let me see. This is 11, isn't it, Abby?
No, dear, this makes 12.
Oh, I think you're wrong, Abby. This is only 11.
No, it occurred to me when Mr. Hoskins first came in that this would make a round dozen.
But you really shouldn't count the first one.
Well, I was counting the first one, so that makes it 12.
Hello? Hello? Oh, hello, Al. My, it's good to hear your voice.
But he is in the cellar, dear.
What? Oh, no, Al. I'm as sober as a lark. No, I was just calling you because I was feeling a little Pirandello. Pirandello? You wouldn't know, Al. Look, I'm glad you called. Get a hold of George right away. He's got to review the play tonight. I can't make it. No, you're wrong, Al. No, look, I'll tell you about it tomorrow. No? Well, George has got to cover the play tonight. This is my department, and I'm running it. You get a hold of George. Now, let's see. Where were we? 12!
Oh, yes, dear. Abby thinks we ought to count the first one, and that makes 12.
So let me get the... Who was the first one?
Mr. Midgley. He was a Baptist.
Of course, I still think we can't take full credit for him because he just died.
Martha means without any help from us. You see, Mr. Midgley came here looking for a room.
It was right after you'd moved to New York.
And it didn't seem right to let your nice room go to waste when there's so many people who needed it.
He was such a lonely old man.
All his kith and kin were dead, and it left him so forlorn and unhappy.
We felt so sorry for him.
And then, when his heart attack came, and he sat dead in that chair, so peaceful, remember, Martha? Well, we decided then and there if we could help other lonely men find that peace, we would.
So, that man walked in here and dropped dead, right in this chair. How awful for you.
Oh, not at all. Your grandfather always used to have a cadaver or two around the house. You see, Teddy had been digging in Panama, and he thought Mr. Midgley was a yellow fever victim.
That meant he had to be buried immediately.
So we all took him down to Panama and put him in the lock. You see, that's why we told you not to bother about it. We know exactly what's to be done.
So that's how all this started? That man walking in here and dropping dead?
Well, we knew that we couldn't count on that happening again.
Remember those jars of poison that have been up on the shelves of Grandfather's laboratory all these years?
You know the knack your Aunt Martha has for mixing things. You've eaten enough of her piccalilli.
Well, Mortimer, for a gallon of elderberry wine, I take a teaspoonful of arsenic and add half a teaspoon of strychnine and then just a pinch of cyanide.
Should have quite a kick.
As a matter of fact, one of our gentlemen found time to say, "How delicious."
Well, I'll have to get things started in the kitchen.
Oh, I do wish you could stay for dinner, dear.
I'm trying out a new recipe.
I couldn't eat a thing.
I'll come and help you. Well, Mortimer, I feel better now that you understand. You have to wait for Elaine, don't you? How happy you must be. I'll leave you alone with your thoughts.
Come on.
I'm sorry it took so long, dear.
Oh! It's you.
Don't be cross, darling. Father could see I was excited, so I told him about us, and that made it hard for me to get away. But listen, he's not going to wait up for me tonight.
Elaine, you run along home and I'll call you up tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
You know I always call you up every day or two.
But we're going to the theater tonight.
No! No, we're not.
Well, why not?
Elaine, something came up.
What, darling? Mortimer, you've lost your job?
No, I haven't lost my job. I'm just not covering the play tonight. Now, you run along home, Elaine.
But I've got to know what's happened. Certainly you can tell me.
No, I can't, dear.
But if we're going to be married...
Married?
Have you forgotten that not 15 minutes ago you proposed to me?
I did. Oh, yes! Well, as far as I know, that's still on. But you go home now. I've got to do something.
No, I won't go home. Not until I've had some kind of explanation.
Oh, Elaine! Oh. Hello? Oh, hello, Al. Hold on just a minute, will you, Al? I'll be right with you. Okay, it's important, but it can wait a minute, can it? Hold on. Elaine, you're a sweet girl and I love you, but I have something on my mind now and I want you to go home and wait until I call you.
Don't try to be masterful.
When we're married and I have problems to face, I hope you're less tedious and uninspired.
Well, when we're married, if we're married, I hope I find you adequate.
Elaine? No! Elaine! No! Oh, I'm sorry. Al? Al? No. Hello? Hello?
It's the doorbell ringing. How do you do? Come in.
I understand you have a room to rent.
Yes, won't you step in?
Are you the lady of the house?
Yes, I'm Miss Brewster, and this is my sister, another Miss Brewster.
My name is Gibbs.
Oh, do sit down. I'm sorry, we're just setting the table for dinner.
Hello? Oh, let me talk to Al again. City desk, Al. City desk. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong number.
May I see the room?
Why don't you sit down and let's get acquainted?
That won't do much good if I don't like the room.
Is Brooklyn your home?
Haven't got a home, live in a hotel, don't like it.
Hello? City desk?
Are your family Brooklyn people?
Haven't got a family.
Oh, all alone in the world. Why, Martha! Well, you've come to just the right place to sit down.
Hello? Oh, hello, Al. It's Mort. Look, we got cut off. I can't cover the play tonight. That's all there is to it. I can't!
What church do you go to? There's an Episcopal church practically next door.
I'm Presbyterian, used to be.
What's George doing in Bermuda? Well, certainly I told him he could go to Bermuda. Well, it's my department, isn't it? Well, Al, you've got to find somebody. Who else is there around the office?
Is there always this much noise?
Oh, he doesn't live with us.
Well, Al, there must be somebody. Al, how about the office boy? You know, the bright one. The one we don't like. Well, look around the place. Al, hold on.
I'd really like to see the room.
It's upstairs. Won't you try a glass of our wine before
Never
we
touch
go
it.
up?
We make it ourselves. It's elderberry wine.
Elderberry wine? Well, I haven't had elderberry wine since I was a boy. Thank you.
Well, Al, there must be some printers around. Al, look, the fellow who sets my copy. He ought to know about what I'd write. His name is Joe. He's the third machine from the left.
Do you have your own elderberry bushes?
Oh, no, but the cemetery's full of them.
No, I'm not drinking, but oh, I'm gonna start now.
Mortimer.
Huh?
Mortimer, not that.
Get out of here. What? Oh, do you want to get killed? Do you want to get poisoned? Oh, no. Do you want to get murdered?
Oh, now you've spoiled everything.
You can't do things like that. I don't know how else to explain this to you, but it's not only against the law, it's wrong. It's not a nice thing to do. People wouldn't understand. He wouldn't understand.
Abby, we shouldn't have told Mortimer.
Well, what I mean is, this has developed into a very bad habit.
Now, Mortimer, we don't try to stop you from doing the things you like to do. I don't see why you should interfere with us.
Hello? Oh, hello, Al. Yes, Al. I'll go see the first act and then pan the heck out of it. But Al, you've got to do this for me. Get a hold of O'Brien, our lawyer. Yes, the head of our legal department. Tell him to meet me at the theater. Now, don't let me down, okay? I'm starting now. Look, I've got to go to the theater. I can't get out of it. But before I go, will you promise me something?
We'd have to know what it was first.
I love you very much, and I know you love me. You know I would do anything in the world for you, and I want you to do this little thing for me.
What do you want us to do?
Don't do anything. I mean, don't do anything. Don't let anybody in this house. And leave Mr. Hoskins right where he is.
Why?
I want time to think, and I've quite a little to think about. You know I wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
What on earth could happen to us?
Well, anyway, you'll do that for me, won't you?
Well, we were planning on holding services before dinner.
Services?
You don't think we'd bury Mr. Hoskins without a full Methodist service? He was a Methodist!
Well, can't that wait until I get back?
Oh, then you can join us.
Yes, I can.
Oh, I really do think you'll enjoy the services. Remember how beautifully he sang in the boys' choir before his voice changed?
And you're not going to let anybody in this house until I get back.
Well...
It's a promise.
Oh, Martha, I think we can do that now that he's cooperating with us. All right, Mortimer.
Do you have any paper? I'll be back as soon as I can. There's a man I've got to see.
Here's some stationery. Will this do?
That's fine. I can save some time if I write my review on the way to the theater.
Mortimer didn't quite seem himself today.
Oh, well, that's only natural. I think I know why.
Why?
Mortimer's just become engaged to be married. I do suppose that makes a man nervous.
Oh, I'm so happy for Elaine. And their honeymoon really ought to give Mortimer a real vacation. I don't think he got much rest this summer.
Well, at least he didn't go off kiting to China or Spain.
I never could understand why he wanted to go to those places.
Well, I think to Mortimer, the theater always seemed pretty small potatoes. He needs something bigger to criticize, something like the human race.
Oh, Abby, if Mortimer's coming back for the services, we'll need another hymnal. There's one in my room.
It's really my turn to read the services, but since you weren't here when Mr. Hoskins came, I want you to do it.
Oh, that's very nice of you, dear. Are you sure you want me to?
Oh, it's only fair.
I think I'll wear Mother's old brooch.
I'll go, dear.
We promised Mortimer we wouldn't let anyone in.
Who do you suppose it is?
Wait a minute, I'll look. It's two men. And I've never seen them before.
Are you sure?
There's a car at the curb. They must have come in that.
Oh, let me look.
Do you recognize them?
They're strangers to me.
We'll just have to pretend we're not home.
Come in, Doctor. This is the home of my youth. As a boy, I couldn't wait to escape from this house. And now, I'm glad to escape back into it.
Yeah, Johnny, it's a good hideout.
The family must still live here. There's something so unmistakably Brewster about the Brewsters. I hope there's a fatted calf awaiting the return of the prodigal.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Look, Johnny, drinks.
As if we were expected. A good omen.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Aunt Abby. Aunt Martha. It's Jonathan.
You get out of here.
I'm Jonathan. Your nephew, Jonathan.
Oh, no, you're not. You're nothing like our nephew, Jonathan, so don't pretend you are. You just get out of here.
Yes, Aunt Abby, I am Jonathan. And this is Dr. Einstein.
And he's not Dr. Einstein either.
Not Dr. Albert Einstein. Dr. Herman Einstein.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
I see you're still wearing the lovely amethyst ring Grandma Brewster bought in England. And you, Aunt Martha, still the high collar to hide the scar where Grandfather's acid burned you.
His voice is like Jonathan's.
Have you been in an accident?
No. My face. Dr. Einstein is responsible for that. He's a plastic surgeon. He changes people's faces.
But I've seen that face before. Remember when we took the little Schultz boy to the movies? And I was so frightened. It was that face.
Easy, Johnny. Oh, don't worry. The last 5 years, I give Johnny 3 faces. I give him another one right away. See, last days I saw that picture too, right before I operate, and I was intoxicated.
You see, Doctor, what you've done to me, even my own family.
Johnny, you're home. It's this lovely house. How many times he tells me about Brooklyn, about this house, about this aunts that he loves so much. They know it's you, Johnny. Speak to him. Tell him so.
Well, Jonathan, it's been a long time. What have you been doing all these years?
Yes, Jonathan, where have you been?
England, South Africa, Australia. The last 5 years, Chicago. Dr. Einstein and I have been in business together there.
Oh, we were in Chicago for the World's Fair.
We found Chicago awfully warm.
Yeah, it got hot for us too.
It's wonderful to be in Brooklyn again. And you, Aunt Abby. Martha, you don't look a day older. Just as I remembered you. Sweet, charming, hospitable. And dear Teddy, how's he gone into politics? My little brother, Doctor, was determined to become president.
Teddy's fine, just fine. Mortimer's well, too.
I know about Mortimer. I've seen his picture at the head of his column. He's evidently fulfilled all the promise of his early nasty nature.
We're very fond of Mortimer.
Well, Jonathan, it was very nice to have seen you again.
Bless you, Aunt Martha. It's great to be home again.
Well, Martha, we mustn't let what's on the stove boil over.
Yes, if you'll excuse us just a minute, Jonathan, unless you're in a hurry to go somewhere.
Well, where do we go from here? We got to think fast. The police, they got pictures of that face. I got to operate right away. We got to find some place. And we got to find some place for Mr. Spenalzo too.
Don't waste any worry on that rat.
But Johnny, we got to hot stiff on our hands.
Forget Mr. Spinalzo!
But we can't leave a dead body in the rumble seat. You shouldn't have killed him, Johnny. He was a good fellow. He gives us a lift, and what happens?
He said I looked like Boris Karloff! That's your work, Doctor! You did that to me!
Johnny, if we find a place somewhere, I fix you up quick.
Tonight!
No, Johnny, I got to eat first. I'm all hungry. I'm weak.
Well, Jonathan, we're glad that you remembered us and took the trouble to come and say hello. But you were never happy in this house, and we were never happy while you were here. So we've just come in to say goodbye.
Aunt Abby, I can't say your feeling towards me comes as a surprise. I've spent a great many hours regretting the heartaches I must have given you as a boy.
Well, Jonathan, you were quite a child to us.
But my great disappointment is for Dr. Einstein. I promised him that no matter how rushed we were in passing through Brooklyn, I'd take the time to bring him here for one of Aunt Martha's home-cooked dinners.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm afraid there wouldn't be enough.
Abby, it's a good-sized pot roast.
Pot roast?
I think the least we can do is...
Thank you, Aunt Martha. We'll stay for dinner.
Well, we'll hurry things along.
Yes.
Jonathan, if you want to freshen up, why don't you use the washroom in Grandfather's laboratory?
Is that still there?
Oh, yes. Yes, just as he left it. Well, I'll help Martha get things started since you're all in a hurry.
Well, we get a meal anyway.
Grandfather's laboratory. And just as it was, Doctor, a perfect operating room.
Too bad we can't use it.
After you're finished with me, Doctor, we could make a fortune here. Grandfather's laboratory, the large ward in the attic, 10 beds, and doctor, Brooklyn is crying for your talents.
Why work yourself up, Johnny? Anyway, for Brooklyn, we're a year too late.
You don't know this town, doctor. Practically everybody in Brooklyn needs a new face.
But with so many of the old faces locked up?
A very small percentage. And the boys in Brooklyn are famous for paying generously to stay out of jail.
Take it easy, Johnny. Your aunts, they don't want us here.
We're here for dinner, aren't we?
And after dinner?
Leave that to me, doctor. I'll handle it. This house will be our headquarters for years.
Oh, that would be beautiful. This nice, quiet house. Those aunts of yours, what sweet ladies. I love them already. I get the bags, yeah?
We must wait till we're invited, doctor.
But you just said...
We'll be invited.
And if they say no?
Doctor, 2 helpless old women.
Oh, it's like comes true, a beautiful dream. Only, I hope you're not dreaming. It's so peaceful.
Yes, doctor. That's what makes this house so perfect for us. It's so peaceful.